Well done. Ronnie, it's 2022, man.
Happy New Year and welcome everybody.
Happy New Year. Hey, everybody. I am sports mental health empowerment coach and couple marriage and family therapist, Dr. Lauren Pitts. This is my amazing colleague, superstar, former scholar athlete and mental health counselor, Ronnie Ransome Jr. And this is the 2022 version of House Talk Pregame. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back, everybody, and Happy New Year once again. Same new year, same us, though, in a better way. But look, y'all, emotional well-being is important in any athlete's success academically, athletically, socially, and spiritually. Untreated mental health problems result in undue suffering, diminished positive effect, and balance in life. Most psychiatric disorders, however, in student athletes improve and resolve with proper treatment.
Yeah, they do. Ronnie, I think it's so important for people to know that to many athletes, being mentally tough means never showing weakness. You and I talk about that all the time. It's never admitting that you're not okay and never sharing your mental health struggles with anybody. Unfortunately, these decisions can have, as we've seen and going to talk about, disastrous consequences. But the good news is that a lot of people in the athletic world are realizing how important this is. And for coaches and parents and fellow players, all of these people can make a difference when it comes to mental health. When athletes properly care for their body and their mind, they are able to do better and perform much better athletically and in life.
Absolutely. The mental health of athletes is important. And here at Pregame, we will discuss why. From why mental health matters to how to get proper treatment and so much more. That's what it's all about here at Pregame. Heightening mental health awareness. Mental health is a lot more than simply the absence of mental disorders, though. It also involves a constant and active effort towards maintaining happiness and mental well-being.
Absolutely. Optimum mental health is fundamental to an athlete's ability to enjoy their life. But to achieve this, it's essential to strike a balance between one's personal and one's professional responsibilities, their social life, and daily activities. However, several people have an issue with this, and they struggle. They struggle in maintaining their health and well-being. They have difficulty maintaining their social and financial standing. They have difficulty making appropriate lifestyle choices, and they develop issues from a biological perspective that impact their overall well-being, that can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and depression.
Absolutely. So, it is important that athletes must maintain their mental health to balance the pressures to succeed and perform well during competitions. While more and more athletes and coaches are beginning to recognize the importance of mental health in sports, mental health has historically been an unspoken issue within the realm of athletics, but not here on Pregame. So not only can you join our discussions live, but you can also catch us on HSRN every Saturday at the same exact time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and at 10 p.m. as well, and on Sundays at 6 p.m. And just as a reminder, HSRN is empowering the HBCU's families' head, heart, and hands to deliver the impact we all know it can. So don't forget to catch up the lineup of all our other great shows that are on HSRN on live, on the app, or online.
Absolutely. We also invite you to join us each week to be a part of the virtual audience by registering with the Zoom link that's available on all of our social media platforms. Or you can always email us at htpregame@gmail.com, because we really do want to hear from you.
And so we have a great show lined up for you all today. Cannot wait to start talking about. We got a great topic lined up today. So our topic for today is game time confidence. We know confidence is important for athletes, right? But confidence in the face of adversity is the hallmark of champions. When having success, high confidence is much easier, but when obstacles appear, keeping your confidence high can be a little bit more difficult. So we're going to be talking about things that can impede on your confidence, things that can boost your confidence, talking about some of the greatest athletes throughout our history who have exuded the utmost confidence, and even athletes who have struggled with their confidence through sports, through personal life and things like that, amongst other things. We're also going to be sharing our mental health tip of the week this week as well, and going over a lot of news in the HBCU world that's happened since the last time we've been on the air. So I'm super excited to start today's show, super excited for the new year. So let's go on and get into this mental health tip of the week. So being it's a new year, starting all over, and chivalry is not dead, I will allow you to go first, Dr. Pitts. So what I did there.
I wanted you to go first, Ronnie.
All right, I can go first real quick.
Please go first.
I got a simple one.
Okay.
So like I said, it's a new year. And so my mental health tip of the week is going to be talking about goal setting. Because as we know, at the beginning of the year, everybody always talks about New Year's resolutions. And in fact, I don't have the exact number on top of my head, but I looked it up earlier in the week, and I think it's almost like 70% of people by February ditch their New Year's resolutions. And, this happens to a lot of people every single year. End of the year gets here, whether it's been a good year or a bad year, everybody always sets their sights on January 1, that feeling of a brand new year, a fresh start, a chance to do things the right way this year if you didn't get a chance to do them the previous year. But how do I do that? Oftentimes when people set goals, oftentimes they set unrealistic goals. And at the top of the year, one of the most unrealistic goals that are always set is surrounding around physical health and wellness, which is, let's say, for example, you've been eating bad all year, you ain't worked out all year, and then you come around and say, well, I'm trying to lose 50 pounds by spring. Now, look, that sounds admirable. That sounds really good. It sounds, oh, you're going to lose 50 pounds by spring? Awesome. After 1 week, and the scale to went up another 3 pounds. You're like, you know what? F this. I'm done with this. I'll try again next year. But, oftentimes when we set goals, we have to really ask ourselves, what is the purpose of this goal? Why are we setting this goal? How can this goal help me achieve the outcome that I'm looking for? So I just want to go through some goal setting tips and then some ideas of some outcome-based goals and maybe some more flexible, creative type of goals. So some real quick tips about goal setting. Remember, break down and simplify your goal. All right, we all know that, let's say, for example, let's say you do want to lose, let's say more realistically, 25 pounds by the spring, right? So 25 pounds is the end goal. Now, how do we break that down? Are you going to lose 25 pounds in one day? Are you going to go all the way through winter and then the day before spring starts, you're going to lose the 25 pounds then? How are we going to do that? We just can't do it all at one time, so we need to break it down. So if I'm trying to lose 25 pounds by the spring, let me break that out. I got about roughly 15, 16 weeks. So maybe if I lose a pound a week, maybe if I lose a pound and a half a week, okay. So now that I'm trying to lose a pound and a half a week, how do I do that? Well, now I need to see my diet. What am I eating per day? Breaking down that large goal into smaller goals, because when we try to set out a large goals are really good, and we need large goals. But large goals will also take time. Those are what we call long-term goals. So if your long-term goal is 25 pounds, we need to set intermediate goals and short-term goals. So if my short-term goal can be 5 pounds, cool. Intermediate, 15. Then long-term, 25. Think of needs versus wants. All right. Like I said, when setting goals, make them realistic. All right. And make them to you. We all want a lot of things. Let's say, for example, well, hell, I want a $500,000 house. I want that, but do I need that? No. What I need is to take care of the house I already have. So what are some goals to taking care of that? Make your goals about it going to benefit you. All right. Not for the moment here and now, but also for long term as well. Don't get stuck trying to make a perfect goal. All right. There is no such thing as a perfect goal. I talk about this all the time on the show. There's no such thing as perfection. It is not real. I know in sports world, we have undefeated records and things like that. Nothing is perfect. All right. So do not try and set an unrealistic, perfect goal. All right. For kids, if you've been getting B's and C's and a D all year, don't come back to the top of the year and say, I'm going to get all A's the rest of the year. No, you will not be perfect like that. Make a realistic goal. If you want to get 1A, there you go. Make it that 1A is your goal. And last but not least, make a list of measurable goals. It's one thing to make a goal, but also how can I measure this goal? How do I know I'm on the right track for this goal? So once again, if your goal is weight loss, being able to track your calories that you're eating a day, being able to track the calories you're burning during workouts and things like that, so you can know if what you're doing is working to help you towards your goal. And so an idea of outcome-based goals may sound like, I want to lose 15 pounds. I want to hit 10,000 steps every day. I want to lose 5 pounds of fat. I want to cook healthy for every meal. I want to drop 3 pant sizes. I want to hit a new rep on bench press or squats or something like that. Or I want to gain 6 pounds of muscles. Those are our outcome-based goals, meaning that the goal right there is defined, it's solid, it's concrete. This is what I'm trying to do. So it's important to have smaller goals to help you get to that outcome-based goal. And process or creative kind of goals more sound like, maybe instead of eating 4 times a week, let me back it down to 3 times a week, and then back it down to 2 times a week. Increase my daily average of steps by 1,000 steps per month. So if I'm only walking 7,000, 8,000 steps per month, okay, let me shoot for 8,000 the next month, and then 9,000 the next month. All right. Let me commit 3 months to a structured strength training program. If I'm trying to add 6 pounds of muscle, cool, that's the end goal. But how do I get there? Well, if it's going to take me 12 weeks to do the strength program, well, let me measure how far I am along 12 weeks after, as opposed to just getting frustrated after 1 or 2 weeks and be like, damn it, I ain't gained no muscle. What's going on? And then, another one is hitting my protein targets on my meals every day. So if in order to gain muscle, you have to eat protein, making sure you know how much protein you need to get in your body and things like that. All of these are great examples of how to help you set goals and see how to help you achieve your goals. And understand this. People fall off their goals. People lose track. People, maybe fall behind. That is absolutely fine. Remember, the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to finish. Okay. If I'm worried about being perfect, then I will never reach my goal, because I will never be satisfied, because I will always sit there and say, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done this. I could have done that. I could have done this. Remember, the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to finish. Whatever your goals are, personal, professional, financial, relationship, spiritual, whatever your goals are, make them realistic, make small goals to achieve your long-term goals. And then remember, it is not about perfection. It's about finishing. Start with the end in mind and always remember your why. And that is our mental health tip of the week. Start off the new year.
Sounds powerful to me. And the whole time that you were talking, the word that just kept coming up for me is discipline.
Yes.
In order to be able to achieve those measurable goals, you have to be disciplined. And isn't that something that is preached and that you all are knocked over the head with day in and day out? Your performance is contingent upon how disciplined you are in your eating, how disciplined you are in your physical fitness, how disciplined you are in taking care of your physical and mental health, how disciplined you are at appropriately modifying your behavior, how disciplined you are at regulating your emotions, and so on and so forth. So I thank you for that, Ronnie, because when I think about, my own work on, as everybody knows, I don't do New Year's resolutions. I do things to provoke your thoughts and believe in being accountable. So great tips for that. My mental health tip of the week ties into confidence, and I want to say it this way. I want people to learn how to befriend their fear, and befriending your fear will be instrumental in helping you to play with confidence. I think that it's important for everybody to be reminded that successful people in life, no matter where you come from, no matter what your socioeconomic status is, no matter what you're striving for success in, you are going to always come up against some degree of fear. You may even experience worry and doubt too. Don't be paralyzed by fear. Fear is present in every single solitary one of our lives. It is the perimeter of the reality that we know. So, and I mentioned it last year, if you can just envision yourself in this room that represents your comfort zone. And within that comfort zone, there is discomfort, there is dis-ease, there is angst, there is discontent. And when you get ready to go out that door, fear and anxiety are standing there more than willing to punch you in the face. But successful people, no matter what it is you are seeking to achieve success in, successful people are confident and successful in the face of their fear. It's just a matter of whether or not you are willing to push forward and achieve whatever it is that you set out to achieve anyway. What I hope that people will do in 2022 and beyond, Ronnie, is to think about everything that they are missing out on if they choose to stay paralyzed by fear. If they could have, on purpose, because it's a choice, playing confident, engaging in whatever athletic event confidently, even in the presence of your fear, is a choice. It is absolutely positively a choice. But I hear my grandfather in my head saying, you can never win a race that you don't enter. None of us are perfect. So as Ronnie said when he was sharing his tip, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to have shortcomings and pitfalls, and maybe even things that you consider failure. But if you're willing to embark upon the journey with a level of confidence that suggests that even with the shortcomings, even with the pitfalls, even with the mistakes, instead of viewing those things as a reason to be embarrassed, ashamed, or humiliated, consider them teachable moments. Consider them opportunities for you to grow and mature and develop and to come forth as a better version of yourself that, oh no, Ronnie, then what happens is you become more confident because you're stronger, because you're better, because you've learned some things, because you have made a conscious decision to get out of your own way. How do you become more confident in play? You grow stronger, you grow better. But if you're not willing to do that in the presence of your fear, how can you ever get better? People don't ever want to go through anything, Ronnie. If you don't ever go through anything, how the heck will you ever know what you're capable of?
Hey.
How will you ever know? Because life is going to keep living. Keep living. Life is going to happen to all of us. You're going to come up against some things that you're not going to have the answers for, because that's just how life works. So you have to lift, in addition to your weight regimen, you have to lift to build your confidence muscles too. And you do that by befriending your fear and pressing on, even though people are going to always have something to say. They're going to talk about you when you're doing good. They're going to talk about you when you're doing bad. So you might as well press on.
Hey.
And oh, by the way, let's keep it real. Some of the fans, no matter what level of play you're at, middle school, high school, college, the pros or whatever, you can always count on folk. They're going to have something to say. Some of them people ain't never played a day of sports in their life and never took a snap of football, but got everything in the world to say about what you should be doing different and better.
Yeah. If they ain't paying you, don't pay them no mind.
Say that. Befriend your fear and move forward in the confidence and knowing that even if things don't work out as ideally as you would like for them to do, there's still opportunities for growth and development that can build your confidence muscles.
Amen. That was beautiful tip, Dr. Pitts. Thank you so much for that. So before we transition into talking about athletes and confidence, wanted to run down some things that have been happening in the HBCU world real quick. So first and foremost, I want to give a special shout out to 3 Trojans for being part of the first official class for the HBCU combine that's taking place for the NFL. So it's a total of 40 HBCU football players, and 3 players are from Virginia State.
Nice.
Mr. Will Adams, who plays defensive back, Javon Frazier, who plays outside linebacker, and Zachary Wilcox, who plays offensive line. So shout out to those young brothers right there for being part of the first HBCU combine that the NFL is hosting. I think this is major. It's a great step in the right direction. And, you know, like we've been talking about, and we did have one of our last shows when Travis Hunter had signed to Jackson State.
Yeah.
And you know, even
a few more have
oh yeah, their transfers have been unreal.
Yes,
like they I mean, it's kind of sad that, you know, they didn't win the game against was it Albany? Was it Albany? It wasn't Albany, was it?
It was South Carolina.
South Carolina State. South Carolina State went out there and gave them just an old grand fashion butt whooping.
Yeah,
they weren't trying to hear none of that talk about all them players and whatnot. Right. But I think, you know, it's a great step in the right direction for HBCU football players. It gives them a real legitimate chance, because it used to be if you were that good, you just had to hope that you got invited to one of the regional combines that the NFL hosts, which the closest one over here on the East Coast for us is Baltimore. Okay. So, you know, now that they're actually having a showcase for HBCU football players, I think this is a wonderful thing. So hopefully, you know, they can go out down there and show out, and the other 40 athletes as well go down there and show out and earn your keep. You know, we always talk about getting a chance, and you got to be ready for a chance. You know, you never know when your chance is gonna come. And in the immortal words of T.I., if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
Say that. You know what, back in the day when I was still in the hotel restaurant business, we used to say you have to be visit ready every day. No matter what, you have to be visit ready every single solitary day.
In other news for HBCUs, some strange news as well, Dr. Pitts. I remember we had talked about this earlier in the week, but so 7 HBCUs received a bomb threat on the same day. So at least 7 historically Black colleges and universities received bomb threats on Tuesday, leading to evacuations of students and employees. The schools include University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, Florida Memorial University, Howard University, Norfolk State University, North Carolina Central University, Prairie View A&M, and Xavier University. According to the Washington Post, it was not immediately clear whether the threats were connected or whether they were racially motivated. No explosives were found, and by early Wednesday, the schools received the all clear notices. That's just crazy. Like bomb threats. I
guess a civil rights movement flashback.
I guess they're trying to create the, you know, Black Wall Street all over again, you know, and everything. It's crazy. Like, I mean, I always find it fascinating. Like I know as a clinician, you have to think about this sometimes too, and I don't want to get too far off track, but like you know, what blows my mind that people still to this day think that robbing a bank is a good idea. Like,
Ronnie, don't make me laugh, man. You know I'm in emotional and physical pain over here.
I mean, like, I just be like, how? What's going on in your life that you sitting around?
I'm gonna rob a bank. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to McDonald's and get me some breakfast. I'm gonna go rob this good bank. I'm gonna go get my nails done, do a little bit of shopping. I'm gonna come on home.
Like, that's on your daily agenda. Like, yeah, I'm gonna stop by. I'm gonna stop by Bank of America real quick, run me a bag real quick, and I'm just like, so yeah. I mean, I don't know, like, people got too much time on their hands. That's all I'm gonna say about that. You know, you got that time to email or call a bomb threat into a school. I mean, thank God it wasn't real, you know, because that could have been, you know, that would have been terrible. You know, I don't even want to think about what would have happened if that was even remotely true. But
had some issues here with high schools. There were high school kids arrested here just within the past couple of weeks for calling in bomb threats to a couple of, I want to say it was 2 or 3 of our high schools here in North Texas that they ended up arresting some students because it, you know what, and when I say it tickles me, it's not like a ha ha he matter, but like you said, it's sort of like a mind blower. Like, why did you think that was a good idea? Why is it that with all of this modern technology that we have, that folks really believe that there is just no way possible that this stuff is going to be traced back to them? Are you kidding me?
It's just like, what is going on? I mean, granted, like we've come across people in our profession that, their reality is, shifted a couple dimensions over to the left or right a little bit. We're in, 3D. They might be over in 1D. Others might be in 7, 8D. I don't know, depending on, what they inhaled that day. But, hey, I just don't get it, And it doesn't, on top of that, schools, HBCUs are already scrambling about, allowing kids back on campus for the spring semester due to, this new now Omicron variant, the Omicron variant for all those out there, because Omicron has nothing to do with this variant or COVID or anything related to diseases. He is strictly a singer and a dancer for a group formerly known as B2K, which I think meant Boys to Kings, but that's neither here nor there. All right. So some schools have actually, like Virginia State just announced that they're actually, for the first 2 weeks of campus, first 2 weeks of classes, are either doing hybrid or strictly virtual. They're leaving it up to the professors. Some schools, I think like Howard and a couple other HBCUs, have pushed back the spring semester all the way to the first week of February. Some students are pleased about it. Other students are like, well, does this mean we got to stay on campus longer? We have to stay, further into the
jacking up my graduation. What's going on?
So, it's a lot of uncertainty out there. So, I say all that to say, new year, same mess, what's going on with COVID and everything. Here we are in year 3 of it, which is just, it's wild. But, for all those out there who are listening, continue to stay vigilant about your health, your physical health, your emotional health. I know it seems like that the world is just, just crazed with chaos and craziness. But I implore you to go out there and find good news. There is good news out there. And, I don't have any sources with me right now, unfortunately, but I implore you to go out there and really look, like listen to your local news. The local news always sometimes share good news. Look it up on Google, good news. Wow, what's some good news for today? And read those articles, because sometimes I think as humans, we get
some good news, Ronnie.
Huh?
I said, how about encouraging people to create their own good news?
Yeah.
Go feed the homeless. Go, contribute to a clothing drive. Go
play with some kids. And I don't know about go play with them. We can't do that no more today. People just too crazy.
Something that broadens your humanity horizons.
Absolutely. And so, go out there, exercise, eat your vegetables, eat your fruit. For those out there who know what I'm talking about, take your black seed oil, because that's God's medicine right there. Black seed oil, trying to tell you.
What does black seed oil do?
Huh?
What's black seed oil do?
So black seed oil is an anti-inflammatory. It helps remove the inflammation in your body, and also helps kind of discharge some mucus and everything. It's good for your lungs. It's good for your nasal passages and all that. It helps get rid of the inflammation, especially during cold season and allergies and all that. For people out there who struggle with allergies, I highly recommend it.
Why are you just now telling me about some black seed oil?
I feel like I've told you about this before, Dr. Pitts. I tell everybody, I've been using black seed oil now for about the last, I think, 3.5 years now.
Where do I get it from, and how do I take it?
So there's several places you can get it from. So we're all about promoting Black businesses and everything. So I know you're familiar with the rap group The Lox, right? Yep. Jadakiss, Styles P, and all. Styles P has a actual herbal shop called Pharmacy for Life, and it's FARMAC for life. Okay. You can find them on Instagram. They have. We actually just ordered a new bundle pack from them last month. It comes with black seed oil, vitamin B, C, and D, and then some Irish sea moss pills as well. I highly recommend it. Their products are amazing. Trust me, I'm not getting paid to promote them at all. They don't even know who the hell I am. So, but if they do hear this, hey, just know I swear by y'all products if y'all listening, But if you don't want to order it from them for whatever reason, you can go to GNC or Vitamin Shop. My personal preference would be Vitamin Shop. They have this one. It's from the line Amazing Herbs. Once again, they aren't paying me. They have no idea who I am. But if they're listening, I like y'all black seed oil too. And I always tell people I chase mine with orange juice because for all those who out there listening, if you ever had castor oil, it kind of tastes like that, but not as gross. So I always say chase it with some orange juice.
Motor oil. Ew.
But I promise you, if you got any nasal blockage or anything like that, I promise you, clear you out in less than an hour. You'll see it a couple times. Black seed oil. Yep. Okay. Swear by it. So Pharmacy for Life, GNC, Vitamin Shop. I swear by it. And oil of oregano. Oil of oregano is another great anti-inflammatory that helps with your nasal passages and helps clean up your lungs and mucus and all that. You take them both together. Hey, I tell you.
I heard about the oil of oregano. I don't remember hearing about the black seed oil, but it's note to self. It's there now. Okay.
I'll share the information with you after the show. But yeah, so look, people, take care of yourselves out there. Look, don't always wait for somebody to do something for you. Take care of yourselves. And yes, it's a new year, but don't be the same person. Look for growth. Right. So with all that being said, and last bit of news, which I mean, everybody who watches football and stuff like that has been talking about this craziness that had happened last Sunday. So if you've been in a hole under the rock and haven't turned your TV on at all, you might have missed out on our fellow Antonio Brown, who is not new to trouble or new to other theatrical events. So on Sunday, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are playing the New York Jets at New York. And here we are, middle of the third quarter. And reports start coming out that Antonio Brown has took all off his equipment and left the field. What was going on? What happened? So at first reports came out, it was that, he just didn't want to go back in. He was hurt. He was mad about catches. All these things were coming out about what had happened. And so, people start asking, well, what do you think about it? Do you think it's mental health? Do you think he's just being ignorant, or is it both? And so, now that, we've had a chance to hear both sides. Antonio Brown came out on Tuesday and basically stated that he was forced to play against his will. He had told the coach prior that, his ankle was really messed up. He got an MRI the next day after the game, said it had broken bone fragments. The tendon was torn off the bone. And, he had, left the field doing jumping jacks and running and things like that and wasn't limping. But that has nothing to do with football moves, according to him. That has nothing to do with running slant routes or cut routes or comeback routes or anything like that that has more pressure on the ankle. That's what Antonio Brown said. So, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come out the next day and they say, well, hold on, sir. That's not exactly what happened. So Bucs come out and say, well, we offered you the chance to rehab your ankle and we gave you the all clear to play in the game. And oddly enough, in the first half, he had five catches in the first half. Now, to add a little bit more backstory to this, Antonio Brown is on what we call a incentives contract or a prove it deal for players who are familiar with the lingo. And in so many words is that Antonio Brown was giving a 1 year deal. I think he was given a 2 year deal. So he was in the second year of his 2 year deal. And basically, if he were to hit a certain amount of catches, yards, and touchdowns, he would get paid a bonus. And he was within, I think, going into last Sunday, I think he needed like 15 more catches, like 300 more yards, and I think like 3 more touchdowns. And he could have got almost $1 million in bonuses. So story starts coming out. The head coach for the Buccaneers say, well, look, we're calling out packages. Antonio Brown said he ain't going in the game. So I tell him, get the F up out of here. I tell him leave. And that's what he did. And so then Antonio Brown takes it a step further, starts going on podcasts at the end of the week. And now, the one person who had his back in Tampa Bay, the only reason he was in Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, he starts taking shots at Tom Brady. Well, Tom, if I'm your boy, why am I on this earnest deal? Why am I on a prove it deal? Then he starts saying, his boy Gronk ain't on no prove it deal. I'm better than Gronk. Who the best receiver here in Tampa Bay? Oh, yeah. Oh, he was really selling it then. Who came in here last year, the last 8 games of the season, and was second in a team in reception after being the third string receiver? Who they needed. They needed me. And so I really haven't shared my opinion about, the whole situation and whatnot, but just from, sitting back and listening to everything that's happened over the last week, I think it's a combination of, mental health and also, a little bit of not ignorance, but just maybe naiveness. And, the sense that here's the facts here. Antonio Brown was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school, went to Central Michigan University, was a 6th round pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And now, not taking away from any of his hard work, because I think one thing that most people will agree on is that when it comes to his work ethic surrounding football, there weren't too many athletes in the NFL who had the work ethic that Antonio Brown had. Some people would even say he had the work ethic that almost could rival maybe Floyd Mayweather, in the sense that he was always working out, always training, always ready, and always in shape. So not taking that from him. However, during his time in Pittsburgh, he had a stretch of 6 years where during that 6-year stretch, it can be argued as one of the greatest 6-year stretch for any receiver in NFL history. What do we know about people who don't come from something and then they get something? What do we know? Oftentimes, they are not held in check. And then the NFL, what do we know greatly about NFL players? The higher your talent and the more you produce for that team, the higher the tolerance is for you to do boneheaded things. And so going back to Pittsburgh, AB starts seeing all these benefits that Big Ben gets. Big Ben ain't got to show up to practice on time. Big Ben, hell, he ain't got practice half the time. He ain't got to show up to meetings. He showed the meetings when he want to. Well, I'm a star player. I'm going to start doing that. And we all know how that happened. Then he goes on Instagram, Facebook Live after a playoff game against Kansas City. And we all hear Mike Tomlin, which hell, I don't know what coach don't talk trash about the team they're going to play the next week to get their team hyped up. And it ain't like he said anything, wild, but just the fact that AB thought that was cool to share what his coach is saying in an intimate moment with his team, you start to see the hinges kind of come off. And then they start trying to hold him in check. Well, what do we know about NFL players? Once again, if your talent is up here, your tolerance is also up here until your talent no longer exceeds your tolerance. So he burns the bridge in Pittsburgh because he's like, they're not passing me enough balls. They're not throwing me enough. They don't care. They don't respect me and all these things. They treat Ben like a king and whatnot, but they treat me like a pawn. So they get him up out of there. This all-time great receiver, they just say, you know what? We out. Goes to Oakland, gets $30 million. $30 million from Oakland. Within a month, he's like, I got to get out of here. So he goes to a cryo chamber. And anybody who knows what a cryo chamber is, it gets to absolute zero, which I think is like negative 300 and something degrees. Super cold. He goes in there without socks on purpose to get frostbite on his feet so he didn't have to be in camp. Oakland's like, you know what? You're too much. We out of here. Then he goes to New England. Only in New England for a cup of coffee, basically. Then he lets out the text.
Cup of coffee.
He lets out the text messages of his group chat where he's talking, whether it's, I believe he's talking about his baby mama or some girl or whatever, but basically, threatening to, beat her up and things like that. Those messages get leaked. Next thing you know, he's at New England. Then he has the whole sexual assault scandal. He has the whole, not paying the people that he had to provide services. All these things going on. And it all culminates in New York, where he is seen shirtless, padless, helmetless, running off the field, waving to the crowd, as if to say, this is my grand exit from the NFL. I don't know Antonio Brown from a hole in the wall. I don't know his situation. I don't know his upbringing. I don't know his background. I don't know none of that. However, from the outside looking in, it would be hard for me to sit there and say that there is not some mental health challenges going on in his life. What I also know is when you have somebody who makes millions and millions of dollars, we almost kind of call it the God complex. Lawyers, judges, doctors, mainly high job people have this kind of mindset where it's like, who who are you to tell me what I'm doing? I can do this. I'm this all-powerful person. Who are you to sit there and tell me I'm doing something wrong? I get that vibe from AB at times. Especially, you pay a man $30 million. There's only so much you can be able to tell them to do, especially if you're not making $30 million.
You think he has destructive entitlement?
Absolutely. I think what we see here, and I've heard people say this all the time. You give somebody a large sum of money, however they were with no money, they will be that 10 times greater with all the money they could ever want. So, like I said, I don't know much about AB. I've never met him personally. I've never talked to him, never had a conversation. So I think it would be unjust and unfair for me to give any type of opinion about who he is as a man and things like that without having a conversation with him. However, just from what I've seen, just from what has been displayed, I think, one, he's very impulsive. Whatever comes to his mind, he most likely probably will do. He probably does not like being challenged or redirected because, once again, here I am. I'm a nobody. I came from nowhere. I went to a nobody's, no disrespect to Central Michigan, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not very popular, but he went there. And I think JJ Watt went there too before he went to Wisconsin. So, all right, let me take that back. Not a nobody school, but hey, it's Central Michigan. It's not Alabama. Nonetheless, he gets drafted in the 6th round, a nobody, making basically nothing. And he catapults into stardom. Some people can adjust to that. And then others, however they were before that stardom or before that level of attention that they got, it has been exacerbated to a level where it might not be beyond reproach. Another great example, no, I'm not going to say that. But I do think there's a combination of things going on in this young man's life where he needs to probably reevaluate the team that's around him. Once again, I don't know who his team is, but it seems like his team does not have his ear like they think they do. What are some of your thoughts, Dr. Pitts?
Well, Ronnie, I think if I had to sum up in a nutshell what you said, I think that I think that in part, it's a case of what we saw in Colin Kaepernick's documentary. So there may be some truth to, concerning how Antonio Brown and any other player is handled. However, one thing that is a constant in every single solitary one of these situations is that the player is the common denominator, no matter what team they're playing for. So there is a sense of accountability that the player must have because you chose to go into the NFL or whatever your sport is. Nobody held a gun to your head and made you play. You made a decision to play. And with that, you also know or should know by now that there are risks associated with that play. It's the cost benefit analysis of the choices that we make in life. It also, in my opinion, takes into consideration what we've discussed previously, in that there are players that the NFL and the other sports organizations focus on, right? Who is going to produce the best possible results that are going to be instrumental in increasing our revenue? And it's a toxic relationship.
Absolutely.
It is the epitome of a toxic relationship. And what do we tell people about toxic relationships? We tell people to get out of them.
Because and get out before it's too late.
Yeah, toxic relationships have the ability to erode your sense of self. They have the ability to compromise your emotional well-being and your physical well-being too, which we know is evident every day in professional sports in so many different ways. Um, I've said, particularly since last week, and I'm not gonna say it outright, I'm gonna allude to it. And I don't know why, but it hit me the other day that from a mental health perspective, Antonio Brown's behavior reminds me of a very popular performing artist in the music industry. His erratic behavior, his impulsivity, his self-proclaimed genius, which is evidenced at time by what they're producing. But in that, though, as you indicated, it does lead to demonstrations of destructive entitlement. But when you get to a point that your behavior is counterproductive to your performance, that's when people cut their losses. That's when people will blackball you. That's when people will disassociate from you and throw you to the side of the road like a bag of trash. I think that what is going to be beneficial, if at all possible, for Antonio Brown is that he has to have an authentic support circle around him. And what I mean by authentic support circle is he has to have individuals around him that are not only just invested in what he can do for them, but they have to be invested in what's best for him. Mm-hmm. And I think that in part, that's what he's been lacking. I think that it's unfortunate that he came out against Tom Brady the way that he did. There's any number of players that Tom Brady could have requested come to Tampa with him.
I'm glad you said that. And it made me think about something that the great TD Jakes once said in an interview. And when he said it, I just listened to the interview maybe a couple weeks ago. He was actually interviewing with Stephen Furtick from
Yep.
Oh God, what's the church? I can't think of the church in Charlotte, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
And he was basically talking about, people who are close in your life and things like that. And, when those relationships go sour and things and stuff of that nature. And one of the things he said, and it was so profound and powerful. And I want to ask you this, seeing how he turned on Tom Brady, TD Jakes said, people only do that towards people that they love or they care about. Mm-hmm. Because if I didn't truly care about you, I wouldn't waste the energy or time to get back at you or to let you know that you got to me. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason it is. Now, for whatever reason that AB felt triggered or felt like that Tom Brady, was disloyal to him, whatever that trigger was, the fact that the way he expressed it was through in other words, a temper tantrum. Mm-hmm. That, and when I saw it, I always think about, when we think about kids, especially kids that we deal with, and when, they get triggered or they get emotionally overwhelmed, what do? They act out, they lash out, because I need somebody to pay attention to me no matter what I'm doing, whether it's good attention or bad attention. I just need somebody to focus in on me, and I'll do whatever I can to get that attention. Mm-hmm. And I also saw people throwing out, do they think he has CTE and that the effects of CTE are bothering him right now? I'm going to leave that one out because, I've shared on the show numerous times. I have had my fair share of concussions over the years of playing football. Yeah. I don't know if I can sit there and say that, when I have had my moments of impulsivity, or I've had my lapses of judgment, or I've had my moments of being overwhelmed and overstimulated, that CTE or that all the concussions that I did have they could be influencing me in some way. But I don't know. I don't know how you can throw that one in there and make it something where it's like that could be a legitimate, explanation as to why we see this grown man, display these feelings of being hurt or betrayed in the way that he did. I don't know. But, I just think that, I think so many people were trying to, Shannon Sharp said it, yesterday on Undisputed. He was like, I just feel like everybody's trying to make up all these excuses for him just for the simple fact that he's Black. And I mean, we're supposed to always, support our brothers and sisters, especially, on a large scale, because, so many times they just get lambasted and accosted and made fun of on social media and, news and whatnot. But I'm just like, I get it. As a clinician, I get it. I'm not shocked, just based off his history and stuff like that. I'm not shocked that he acted in that manner. I'm just disappointed, to your point. I'm disappointed that his support system and his circle, it seems like, have only, solicited him and hung around him for what he provides.
I think that it's important, and I want to wrap this up because I want to make sure we get to the confidence piece, but I think that it would be helpful to reframe what Shannon said, in that I can, you look at the glass half full or the glass half empty. I can understand why some people might see it as, oh, they're just making excuses for him because he's Black. However you choose to define the explanations that people are offering, the bottom line is something is wrong. Yeah. Something is wrong, and there's a root cause, regardless of how people are defining it or how people are seeing the root cause. The reality of it is you cannot correct something that you're unwilling to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge its presence in order to confront it, in order to conquer it. So if some want to suggest that acknowledging that this young man has mental health challenges, if people are viewing that as making excuses for him, then you know what, that is truly their prerogative. But clinically, we're not saying that someone's erratic behavior is making excuses. Clinically, we diagnose them and we get to the root cause of what is fueling this erratic behavior, and we support them through their healing trajectory so that hopefully they can get better and navigate their life in a more efficacious manner. There is something wrong. It is evident. We'll never know, because you don't know what's going on with CTE until they're dead. So where CTE is concerned right now, it's something that we have to put in the parking lot anyway, because we have no way of knowing whether it's CTE or not. What's more important is something is wrong. There is definitely something wrong with this young man. There is a need for a greater, more authentic support system where his mental health is concerned. So whether that's within the NFL or beyond the NFL, what is imperative is that he needs appropriate support to address the mental health challenges that he is clearly facing. And as you were speaking, and I'm going to conclude with this, when we think about trauma that people have experienced, we know that it impacts their development from that point forward. We have no way of knowing what his history may be as it relates to things that may have adversely impacted his mental health. So that being stated, part of the reason why he may be behaving like a child when he's triggered is because biologically he's however old he is, but emotionally he's a wounded child. And as you indicated, what do not just children, but what do people do, period, when they are triggered or when they are stressed? They lash out, they project, they transfer. Hurting people hurt people. And my challenge to the NFL, to his family members, to his friends, to anybody that genuinely and sincerely cares about this man, is to find out the root cause of why he's hurting. I'll treat him. Let the NFL contact me. I'll treat him. I'll work with him.
I don't know if he has health insurance. I don't know if he has health insurance.
because I want to know what's wrong. I want to know what's wrong. And if there's a way to help him, I am willing to help him. Enough said. And guess what? Because of HIPAA, nobody will ever know that I'm working with him. How about that? How about that for all the haters out there to saying she always talking about this, that, and the other? Because of HIPAA, nobody will ever know that I'm working with Antonio Brown. So there goes the theory that, oh, she just wants to be so this, that, and the third. No, nobody would know that I'm working with him because of HIPAA. So there. Let the NFL contact me. I'll treat him.
Y'all can contact me. Y'all can contact me too.
To talk about.
Y'all can hit me up too. You know, yesterday y'all can hit me up. But anyways, so like we said, today's topic is called confidence. And so confidence, a core tenet of mental toughness, has long been heralded as an essential for an athlete's optimal performance. Research confirms what many coaches already know. Confident athletes dream bigger, work harder, think more effectively, and cope better with the stresses of competition. What confidence is not, though? Some athletes and coaches believe that the players who are the most outspoken and boisterous about their abilities are the most confident. Not all the time. However, athletes who brag the most, in fact, may be the most uncertain about their skills and abilities. So don't make that, they're going out here boisterous and bragging that they have real confidence. However, confidence is an athlete's belief in his abilities to be successful in their sport. Belief is the critical word, though. I've worked with athletes who've had the ability to be successful, but didn't believe in their abilities. That lack of belief translated into a lack of confidence. Confidence derives from an athlete's perception of his or her ability to meet the demands of a situation. For example, can I make the game-winning free throw? Can I cover the opponent's best receiver? Can I hit against this pitcher? Can I make a save on a breakaway goal? Basically, does the athlete believe they have what it takes in a given situation? And I think when we think about all the things, all the traits that make up a student athlete, confidence has to be in the top three. Because without confidence, I can assure you, it's gonna get ugly. Mm-hmm. It ain't gonna look good. It's gonna be bad. And if your confidence wavers to a point where you don't even want to go back out there or try again, then we clearly have missed the mark on helping this student athlete building their confidence. And so
discussion around befriending your fear, because fear can be your ally. It doesn't have to be your enemy.
Absolutely. And so what are some things that can impact our confidence and things like that? So one of the things I always think about, one of the biggest things, is the fear of failure. Like Dr. Pitts has said, that fear of failing. And that's with anything. Like when we think about the fear of failing, I always tell people change when the pain they're in is greater than the fear of the unknown.
Facts.
And so, and people, I've probably heard Will Smith say this as well too, on the other side of fear is a success that you've been dying to have. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes the fear of failure can be present, lack of self-confidence in their abilities. So mm-hmm. Let's say, you've had a couple good games, but even yourself, your coach is telling you you're doing a great job, your family's telling you you're doing a great job, your teammates are telling you you're doing a great job, but you yourself are just like, am I really doing a great job? Am I doing that good? I just threw an interception last game, but y'all gave me player of the game. Like, exactly. Almost like self-sabotaging on their accomplishments. Mm-hmm. Overanalyzing or overthinking a situation can rob you of your confidence. I think we were talking about this earlier when we're talking about quarterbacks. I think quarterbacks, when we talk about overanalyzing and being overstressed or overthinking about situations, that's one of the first positions that comes to mind, especially in football, is you can't have a quarterback who is going out there, for one, overthinking, and two, thinking, period. We always hear in football, if you're going on the football field thinking, you're behind. Right. Because at that point now you're waiting for something else to happen for you to react, and you have to think about it. Football is all about reaction in that moment, in that split second. If I'm going left, I got to go with them. If I'm going right, I'm going with them. If he tries to spin move me, I got to be ready to shuffle my feet to make sure he doesn't get around me. If he's trying to pull me in, pull, I got to make sure my back is arched and my hips are low enough so they don't get me off my balance. Those are things that you don't have time to think about during the heat of battle. Those are things that you already have to have addressed and have a plan for well before you step on a football field. So, and one of the other last things that I can tell if somebody's having and losing confidence in themselves is their body language. And that's often one of the times, the first indicators that somebody's losing confidence in their abilities. What would that could look like? Could be a football player walking off the field as opposed to jogging or running. It could be a football player having their head down. It could be a football player sitting on the bench with their hand in their face like this after they fumbled the ball or threw an interception or, dropped a touchdown pass or missed a blocking assignment. Body language is one of the biggest indicators in somebody's in their confidence. It can also, like we said, it often be a situation where they fake it till they make it, where we have people who are bragging. I can't tell you how many teammates I've had over the years and listening to football players over the years brag and talk about how good they are. And, I did this at that camp and I did this in this game. And then you get out there and it's like, well, what's up? Come on, big dog.
What was you trying to convince? Were you trying to convince yourself or us?
Don't convince me. Hey, what's up? So I think when we think about confidence, confidence for me is one of the top 3 things a player must possess in order to be their full, their full encompassing self. What are some of your thoughts on that, Dr. Pitts?
I agree, Ronnie, and I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm gonna approach this from a clinical perspective. I think that it's virtually impossible for someone to play with confidence if they have an eroded sense of self. And when you talk about those players that are bragging, if you have to brag about how extraordinary you are, what that tells me coming out the gate is that you have a diminished sense of self and you actually lack confidence because your play shows. What is the absolute best way to demonstrate that you're all that to sort of rebate in the bag of chips? Win, right? And oh, by the way, if you don't win, because what do we know about sports? You're not going to win every single. There's losers. Tom Brady has lost games.
They lost Super Bowls.
You know what I'm saying? Tom Brady has lost games. Michael Jordan has lost games. Muhammad Ali lost fights. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. The loss doesn't define you. It just says there was room for improvement. So the loss shouldn't be a blow to your confidence. But when you have a diminished sense of self, that loss diminishes your confidence because, truth be told, you were doubting your ability in the first place.
Absolutely. And, and I think that right there, that lack of self-confidence can be crucial. And I think, to get that through a sport, you have to be able to get that outside the sport, get that from home, get that from your family, get that from your friends, and also learning how to give that to yourself. And so I wanted to also share some examples of some other reasons that people have lost confidence or struggle with confidence too, to your point. And for me personally, one of my biggest challenges to my confidence as a football player was even in high school. And I've shared this story before where, my high school coach, for whatever reason, he did not believe in promoting the Black players on our team as much as he did the white players. And I'll never forget it, my sophomore year, me, my mom, and him had a meeting because, we felt like, you're telling me one thing that, we like you and stuff like this. But when these schools come to the school to talk to the players, you're not pulling me in, you're not calling my name, you're not having them come to my classroom and talk to me. Well, what can I do to, put myself in that position? And I'll never forget it. My coach said, Ronnie, I think you're our best lineman on our team. However, such and such has the body for D1. You may go D2 or D3, but he's gonna go D1 based off his body. And when I heard that, I was just like, so what I'm supposed to do? I mean, I just, I can't go hang myself upside down and gain 3 inches of height. I already have the weight, but I mean, I can't make myself get taller. And, it bothered me a little bit. It bothered me because I'm just like, in my mind, what you just told me is no matter how good of a player I am to you, you feel like it's not worth your time to promote me and my talents to other schools. And, I'm not the only player who's been in that situation. There have been thousands of other high school student athletes who've been in that very same situation where, their coach behind closed doors will praise that player and say, you know what, I think you're great. I think you have all the talent in the world. You are our best player. But when it comes to talking to college coaches and things like that, they're quiet and they don't say nothing about that player.
Ronnie, isn't that exactly what we saw depicted in Colin Kaepernick's documentary?
Absolutely.
That's exactly what we saw. And the what comes to mind too is Michael Jordan, right?
Yep.
And like you said, countless other athletes, you think about, there was a movie and I don't remember what it was called, but it's a movie that was out a few years ago about a Philadelphia Eagle who was actually a walk-on. Like,
talking about the one that Mark Wahlberg played.
Yes.
Invincible. I think it's called Invincible.
Yeah. Like you when I think, like, those are the types of stories that immediately come to mind, where
Kurt Warner,
right, where people, where the masses said, oh, you're nothing, but the fight that was inside of that person, the passion that they had that fueled them to pursue the desires of their heart was so much greater than the defeat and the naysayers that were like literally pounding them into a ground with a sledgehammer. And that's what it's all about. It's recognizing sometimes that how bad you want it is the wind that you need to propel you to where you desire to be. When I was sitting here thinking, and honestly, God, Ronnie, I had not thought about it in all of these years, but there were things that athletically, a big part of it was that I, wasn't allowed to, but the other part of why I didn't like pursue and worry my mom and my grandmom's skin off about participating in sports more on a much greater scale in high school is because I honestly didn't think that I was good enough. I remember initially asking my mom, could I be the girls' basketball manager in high school? Because I didn't think that I was good enough to play. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We wanted to practice initially before my mom made me quit that. But initially, and the coach at the time, Coach Sharon Garten, was the girls' basketball coach at the time. And we were practicing and I was shooting threes, just steady shooting threes, shooting threes, right? And she's like, I need you to miss.
Not I need you to miss. You was out here,
like,
Steph
right?
Curry before Steph Curry came
we were
around.
practicing and I was supposed to be shooting to miss, right? Because they were practicing rebounds and all this other stuff. And I'm making it. She's looking at me like, seriously? I never tried out. Because as a country girl who was being bused into the city of Salem, I was already being bullied for all of these other reasons. Like, I was scared to death. I ain't even gonna lie. I was scared to death to try out because I didn't feel like I would fit in. I didn't think that I was good enough to make it. I didn't think that I would be accepted. I didn't think that I would be received. And I've never said that. Like, people are like, I never knew. I'm telling you now, people are going to be texting me, calling me, talking about, yo, for it, you wanted to play basketball when we was in high school? I sure did. I wanted to play basketball and I wanted to run track, but we didn't have a girls' track and field back then. But I never did because I didn't have the confidence and I didn't have anybody telling me that I could.
And I think that's crucial. and thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry that that you had to go through that when you were in high school, because I can imagine how much of a push and pull that was for you back then, on top of being bullied and just the social side of peer pressure and things like that going through high school. So I appreciate you sharing that, and being able to process that for people, because you're not the only one who's gone through that as well. There are plenty of student athletes out there who have that very same reason for why they don't want to try something or do something else, because it's like that fear of failing, or that fear of not being good enough. And
it's not making a team at all. Like it was like I was scared to death that I wouldn't make the team at all, and would have to deal with that, would have to deal with that embarrassment and that shame and that humiliation of, what I should have did, Ronnie.
What's that?
I should have played field hockey. I should have.
Man, you'd have been out there just knocking people over.
Violent mind. I said, and look, and I just had that aha moment too, because both my best friends to this day, they played field hockey for sale. I should have grabbed that stick.
You don't even need a stick. If I played hockey, I wouldn't even want a hockey stick. I would just be skating around, just looking for somebody to take off their skates. Just be looking. Just my title is.
I should have joined Dion and Val. My sister played field hockey. I should have played freaking field hockey. That's what I should have did.
And we're sharing these stories with you guys and we say all that to say this. And this is my message to the high school athletes out there. You very well could have a coach who does not believe in you and does not have confidence in you. Do not let that be your excuse for why you have no confidence in yourself.
That's right.
Because it will happen. There is a kid out there listening to us right now who will have a situation where their coach does not believe in their talents, does not believe they should play quarterback, does not believe they should play offensive defense, doesn't believe they should be on a team or even go play college football. You will have a coach like that. That is not an excuse for you to sit there and say, well, my coach said I'm not good enough, so I guess I'm not good enough. That's BS.
Right.
When my coach told me that in sophomore year, when he told me I'm the best lineman on the team, but I'm not going to go D1, I took that message right there and I burned it in my brain. And I say all that, I went to work. I made it a point that the kid he was talking about, I tried to beat on them in practice every chance I got. When it was one-on-ones, I want him. You saying he that good, he going D1? Show it. Prove me you D1. Go to work. And we're going to talk about work in a second. But I also wanted to cover other couple of things before we run out of time today. Is also about confidence, is coming back from injury and confidence. Oh, before I get to that one, before we get to that one, I'm gonna take another step further real quick. But losing confidence in high school is very common because as high school teenagers, our confidence wavers over a lot of things. Yeah. Let me tell you about losing confidence at the college level, because there's a lot of high school athletes out there who think they the crap, who think they the best man. You might have been all state, you might have been a state player of the year, but guess what? When you go to college, now this ain't at every college, don't get me wrong, because there are some colleges out there, unfortunately, that take players only for the reason they need players on the team. Not because they're good, not because they're talented, but they just need practice bodies. So let me preface by saying that. However, those who start at college level, I don't care if it's D1, D2, or D3, for you to be starting at the college level, there ain't no slouch. You ain't no joke. So when I got to college, I tell this all the time. When I got to college, I was playing guard and tackle in high school. I get to college, the first day of training camp, the very first day, coach was like, well, I need you to go with the centers. Huh? The who? The centers?
You never played the center.
I ain't snapped the ball since I was 9. What's the center? And I kid you not, after my first semester, I ended up actually breaking my foot in camp, that camp as well. So I didn't get to actually play my freshman year. But I would be lying to you if at least a couple points during my very first semester, I thought about quitting football, because in my mind, transitioning from playing guard and tackle to playing center at the college level, in my mind at the time was just insurmountable. I was just like, I don't want to snap the ball. I don't want to play center. And then, in practice, we had a fourth-year senior who just came off being all conference the year before. He was giving me the business in practice. I'm talking about 6'2", 305, all muscle, straight out of the Bronx, New York, giving me the business. And I was like, I can't do this. Bro, I'm really about to flame out, in college at D2 at Virginia State. I'm about to flame out at Virginia State. What? But once again, I picked myself up out of bootstraps and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure this out. And I figured it out. And by that end of that spring ball, my freshman year, I won't get beat up by that senior no more. I was giving him the business. So, you know, I
Ronnie,
say all that to I'm sorry, go ahead.
no. Go ahead, finish that thought, and then I'll piggyback.
I say all that to say, when you get to college, like first and foremost, it is an honor and a privilege to play college football. For those who have had the chance to play college football, you know that when you get to that level, there's only so many college football players out there in the country. It's not like high school where everybody can just walk on the football field and get a jersey. When you play college football, either these players, they all were all state, they all were the best in their state, they all were the best on their team, they were all the best in their county and everything. All these players are the best. And it gets like that at the higher level. You see a lot of D1 athletes, when they go to college, they go to Alabama, they go to Ohio State, they go to Michigan. I'm a 5-star recruit. Well, guess what? There's 3 other 5-star recruits ahead of you that have been here for 2 and 3 years. Wait your turn. Then what you gonna do? When you believe in yourself, when you have supreme confidence in yourself, at the end of the day, football is a competition. It doesn't matter who's lined up in front of you, who's in front of you. For you yourself, the individual athlete, it is up to you to go out there every single day and prove why the school recruited you, why the school gave you a scholarship if you got one, and why they want you on their team. It is up to you to prove that.
Yeah. What I wanted to piggyback on that I think ties in beautifully to what you said, and again, I'm reflecting upon Colin Kaepernick's documentary. Remember in the documentary, you know, his heart's desire was football, but he also played other sports because he was not getting the appropriate support from his coaches where football was concerned. It was actually his ability in basketball that got him the football look, because remember, the coaches from UNLV or wherever it was, when did UNLV?
I think so, yeah.
The coaches from UNLV came to the
I don't know if Dr. Pitts is frozen or if I'm frozen on her end, but I think what Dr. Pitts was trying to explain was in the documentary, if anybody has seen it in Colin Kaepernick's documentary, is when I think if I remember correctly, I think he was playing baseball, not basketball, but when she unfreezes, we'll confirm. But I think it was baseball because I didn't hear it. You were frozen on my end.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's all about. What I was attempting to say was that his passion for sports, period, kept him going. And because he was willing to play basketball and baseball, even though his heart's desire was football, his willingness to not give up, period, got him the look, which opened the door for football, which is what he wanted all along. So what I was just saying to our athletes and even to our parents is keep at it. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Don't box yourself in to football. Don't box yourself into basketball or to baseball or whatever. Keep yourself wide open, because your involvement in one of the other sports could also be your gateway through the door collegiately to the sport that you're the most passionate about. Think, people say think outside the box. I say throw the freaking box away. Keep yourself wide open to the infinite possibilities, because there are ways that the desires of your heart can be made readily available to you, but it might not come dressed the way you're expecting it to come dressed. So Absolutely. Don't limit yourself by getting tunnel vision and thinking this is the only way that you can access your dream, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And one of the last things I wanted to talk about that can really hinder an athlete's confidence is injury. And we see this a lot. We see this a lot that, there are certain injuries and there's certain times that, for players who get injured repeatedly can really be a dent in their confidence. And even for me personally, I dealt with injuries at the collegiate level, and it kind of, really not only derailed my last 2 years of college, but also derailed my plans of football after college as well. And I'll never forget it. I remember when my confidence first was really tested was after my first knee surgery. And I've said it before. I wasn't as knowledgeable as I should have been, I guess. On that knee surgery and how it was supposed to go and whatnot. But by the third knee surgery, I felt like my confidence, at least in my own ability to just remain healthy, was just like, yeah, I might would just get robot knees at this point. But one of the things I will say is, and for me, I guess my determination to not let that hinder me and not let it be my downfall is I went out my last season. I went out there basically with no knees and played a whole season. And like I just said, no, I don't care. Like my backup is playing over me. Ain't nobody coming in here taking my spot. I earned this spot. I'm keeping it, injury or not. Shoot my knees up. Let's go out there. And I think when we talk about confidence, people don't understand that, confidence is not something that is you're just born with. Confidence is one of those things that you have to really, confidence, I think, is also a second level emotion. And, when I talk about second level emotions, I talk about, like love and hate. Those are second level emotions. Confidence is a second level emotion, meaning that something has to be taking place in order for you to feel confident. One of the biggest, and I always tell people, one of the biggest things towards confidence that can help you is just working your butt off. I'm gonna list some names off here, and I think these people are very respected in their sports, but they exude a level of confidence that comes from a level of hard work that some people just can't fathom. Some of these names are Tom Brady, Ray Lewis, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. That's just his name. That's the tip of the iceberg. But all these athletes have in common is their supreme level of confidence comes from their supreme level of self-confidence, and their also supreme level of hard work and discipline. You talked about it earlier when we talked about goal setting. Goal setting means nothing without discipline. Even with motivation, I always tell people, don't say motivated, because motivation runs out. Motivation doesn't last forever, but discipline does. Getting to a point of discipline and putting in that hard work, you will not feel as confident in your abilities as you should if you know you're not putting the hard work in. If you know you're skipping out on weight sessions, if you know you're not running the hill after practice, if you know you're not trying to get extra time after practice, if you're not studying film, if you're not taking care of the classroom, if you're not taking care of everything else that you have to, your confidence will always find a reason to waver. You have to put the work in. Confidence comes from just plain old hard work, the stuff that nobody likes to see, the endless weight room sessions, the endless running sessions, the ones that nobody has you around. And for our young kids out there, I say this again, nobody cares that you keep on posting all your workouts on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all that. Nobody cares. Could care less. Everybody works out. Hell, non-football players work out, and some of them probably work out more than you do, but you on here posting you in the weight room, posting you on the field and stuff like that. Actually do the work. If you're doing the work, that's fine. But don't be sitting there trying to put on a facade and put on a front for social media for your friends and your peers to see that, oh, I'm out here working. And then when you get on the field, you getting worked. Because the eye in the sky don't lie. That film don't lie. I'm trying to tell you, I've seen you talking about confidence getting wavered. I've seen people's confidence get drowned in a film room the next day after a game. What? Man, but in all seriousness though, like I said earlier, I think confidence is a top 3 trait that all successful student athletes and professional athletes must possess, and it must possess it from that level of self-confidence too. And I'm sorry, Dr. Pitts, go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I think that what would be liberating for our viewing and listening audience to know is that there has to be established confidence that in actuality has absolutely nothing to do with one's athletic ability. I think that for each person to understand the importance of building up their sense of self, and with that comes confidence in one's ability to be who they are authentically, then by default, it increases your confidence in your athletic involvement. When you think about how much conversation we've had around identity and how people validate their their existence by their athletic ability. You strip all of that away, what do you have? We have to build up the person. Building up the person beyond their athletic involvement is what strengthens the core. And when we think about athletic play, you have to have core strengthening, right? Well, let's look at core strengthening through a sense of self lens. In order for you to have sustained confidence in your athletic play, you have to have sustained core confidence, meaning that who you are as a human being at the core of your being has to be confident in order for that to carry over and be properly sustained in your athletic involvement. Without that, you know how easy it's going to be for the game and the fans to strip you. But if you are confident, period, it doesn't make a difference whether you have a losing season or a winning season. You're still confident in who you are as a human being. And because you're confident in who you are as a human being, it naturally builds up your resistance. So even if you have a less than stellar season, even if you have a less than stellar game, you still are confident at your core. And that strengthens one's ability to be able to increase your performance so that you are achieving optimum levels of performance, so that you are reaching peak performance and you're able to go out each and every single competition and perform at very high levels. That's my take on it. I think that it's about individuality.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is the individual, you can get confidence from seeing, other people succeed. And sometimes that helps people with confidence, seeing other people be able to do it, and it lets them know that, okay, I can do this too. But as Dr. Pitt so beautifully said, at the end of the day, it is up to you, the individual, to find that confidence within yourself, and knowing that within your abilities, that you have done everything, you have prepared for every possible situation. You have prepared your body, your mind, your heart, and everything to go out there and battle in competition and do what you need to do. And when that game is over, when that final whistle blows, that you know that you laid it all out there on the field, and that you are confident that you did what you need to do to help your team out. Because in football, the confidence of the individual is also the resounding confidence of the team. And the players are only as confident as the team is. And if the team does not have confidence, then it's hard to find individual players to lift up a whole team. So understand that, your confidence also exudes on your teammates and everything, especially at leadership positions like quarterback and things like that. Even a quarterback's confidence, if a team sees that their quarterback is not confident in their abilities, it can really affect that team. So I like Dr. Pitt said, being able to focus on you, the individual, having that confidence, being able to prepare, put the work in, know that you within your limits are able to do what you need to do to take care of everything. And, nobody's saying, you have to have a level of confidence like Muhammad Ali or anybody like that, because even Muhammad Ali, for example, Muhammad Ali was one of those rare people who not only had the confidence, but they could talk and back it up. We're not telling you to be that. We're not telling you to go out here and talk and back it up and things like that. But however, have that confidence in yourself to know that you can do it and you have the abilities to be the greatest student athlete that you can be. And with that being said, I implore all our student athletes out there listening and professional athletes out there listening too, do a self-inventory on your confidence. Find out what wavers your confidence. If you've been struggling with injuries in the past, understand what can I do to make sure my body is in the best physical condition possible so I don't have to worry about that. And one last thing, even going out there before you go out in the game, we think of you having butterflies and jitters and things like that. That right there, that is absolutely fine. I always tell people, if you don't have butterflies or a little bit of nerves before you go out there, I don't know, this might not be for you. I don't know, it might not be for you. However, do a self-inventory. Like we said, this is a new year. It's a new opportunity. A lot of football teams, their seasons have come to an end. So this is a great time, especially for college athletes and stuff like that. Do an inventory of what you did during the season, what things worked, what didn't work. At what point did I feel the most confident? At what times during the season didn't I feel as confident? What can I do this offseason to address those areas that I can improve upon? And, once again, having a support system around you that can also help your confidence and give you that reassurance. Yes, reassure yourself and let yourself know that you're doing a great job. but have that team around you, have that support system and that circle around you that can also do that for you as well. Because just as much as you need to tell yourself you're doing a great job, it always helps to have other people telling you you're doing a great job. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the first show of 2022. What a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful show. Dr. Pitts, I'm looking forward to this year. I'm looking forward to all the great topics, the great guests we're going to have on this show. I'm looking forward to having a bountiful personal life, professional life. And, thank you once again for having me on this show as always. And I'm looking forward to a great year for House Talk Pregame.
Indeed. Have a great Saturday, everybody. There's NFL on today.
Yes, there is. Unfortunately, y'all are playing.
Alrighty, dear. You know what?
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Goodbye, playing with you. Goodbye.